And I really think it is critical for our town and for our quality of life. And I guess I just have little stories about lots of people that I've spoken to. And one was a lifeguard on our beach right here. And he said that he used to, as a kid, go on the tunnel, that there was a tunnel that went under the casino. And if the weather was, the ocean was choppy or there was dangerous marine life, the kids would just run under that tunnel and go right into the pool. And now I don't see anything that's welcoming into the pool. People don't even know that the pool's there. So I think we need a design that shows the public the pool and a strong marketing program for it. And that's as far as my voice will go today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kathy Berger?
I had
Maybe
written
like
a
a-
comment
I'm
that I
more than
was
happy
not
to-
prepared to speak at the podium there.
No worries. The pool will be and has been a great asset. It's very important for the children to learn to swim and have a positive recreational experience. Thank you.
That's my comment.
Felice Hirschberger? Would you like me to read it too?
I too don't want to talk yet, thank you.
What is the cost of water park versus paint and repair? We haven't even gone in
Yeah,
water
that's
park
what I
direction.
heard, there was a water park thing
Oh, it's just someone showing what,
in the air.
it was somebody showed what another city did and everyone thought that was what we were talking
Okay.
about. Yeah, no,
Thank you.
you're very welcome. Katie McGivern?
I tried to write clearly if you can read.
Yeah, I can. Please fix our pool. It's one of the reasons that people like to live in Lake Worth. Joan Farrell, would you like me to read?
Please.
You got it. Please repair our pool. It's a jewel of the city, and if marketed better, for swim meets, parties, events, revenues could help pay for the repairs, which would be far less costly than an aquatic park. Janet Levinera, would you like to speak? Followed by Shona Dick.
Good evening. My name is Janet Lavanera. I live on 223 North K Street. And this is my first meeting since the new commission, so I want to say welcome. It looks wonderful. I just have a couple things that I would like to say. One is that I'm encouraged by the report. I came here really with my fingers crossed and knowing that there could be a lot of consideration, so I'm very encouraged to hear that it sounds better than I expected. I am a member of the pool group that is not, there's a few of us, I just, want to say, one is that the pool is, without any exaggeration, one of the big reasons that I chose Lake Worth 2 years ago. I've mentioned before in one of these meetings, I did look in other towns, and I did come from a cute little suburb in Connecticut, and so moving to Lake Worth was a big challenge, it was a challenge for me to consider it to begin with. I guess that's not the wrong word. But my sister took me on a tour of town, showed me first Benny's. We went for breakfast. We then took a walk on the beach. We then took a look at the pool. We then took a little drive through town and we went over to the golf course, because I'm a hack golfer. So she said, why would you want to live in PGA when you then couldn't afford to take the golf lessons that you want to take to learn how to golf? So it's how I learned and made my choice to move to Lake Worth. So the pool was number 2, probably, of all of my reasons. I have made most of my friends in town from the pool, and many of them, we mean a lot to each other. I guess there's just no other way to say it. We're now hiking all the way to Lake Lytle to go, and we still have been showing up, about 30 of us every time. And unless you go to the swim classes, you can't fathom how fantastic it is.
Thank you so much.
And that's it.
Thank you.
I didn't realize I was out of time.
I'm
I
sorry.
could keep going.
That little fever.
So I'm hoping we'll repair and or improve, couple real quick things.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Sean and Dick, followed by Peggy Fisher.
Hi everyone again. Thank you very much for this line of, opening this up and researching this part. It means a lot. I'm from the drowning prevention perspective. I'm from the education perspective and helping go further with the pool than we have done, obviously, in the last 10 years. And I want to offer you my support and a lot of other people's support in helping, should we reopen this amazing pool. I want to offer the support in terms of bringing that in and getting the kids involved and turning this into a educational, water-safe city. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much. Peggy Fisher?
Peggy Fisher, 508 North A Street. I agree with everyone who loves the pool. My questions are more about the conflicting information we have heard over time about the condition of the pool and the pool buildings. Your Director of Community Sustainability, Mr. Waters, said the pool building was basically condemned. And now we can throw a couple $100,000 in it and it has 20 more years. There are some tough questions that, beyond the feel good about having the pool, I look to you all to ask and get right. We have a problem at our casino building because those tough questions weren't really dealt with. And we can't find ourselves in a similar situation with the pool and the pool buildings. That red line should have impacted us with the casino building, and we should have done that right. And so I'm looking to all of you to ask all the different sources of information, and we've got a lot of range of how much it's gonna cost, and to look not just at one expert here or one expert there, but everyone and staff included. Thank you.
I would just want to say, City Manager, that would be my biggest concern with all of this. Again, when I got elected years ago now, the beach casino building construction was already done. And it was my job to find the money and get the $6 million back from the county that we almost lost so that we could all get the thing open. And it was, everything, the plans were already pretty much laid in stone at that point. I questioned a lot of things about the project at that time. I know others did as well. My concern is just the things that I realized. When I first got here, there were pieces of the pool building that were actually falling down and falling off. And, like they had to tape them and then glue them and then shellac them and then paint them, and then they still fell off later. So I don't know what part of your structural report that means, only because I saw those things. I remember Mr. Waters saying that the buildings were condemned, and I'm just confused because seeing 3 separate reports from $500,000 to $5 million or 4-point-something million, whatever it may be, that's a lot of wiggle room I'm kind of uncomfortable with.
Let me see if I can help clarify as best I can. First off, the pieces falling off the building, I think the engineer, David, addressed that. On the pool building itself, the pre-stressed members that make up the roof stick out past the sidewalk areas. They were originally intended to provide an overhang and some shade. The exposure to water and salt over the years, they started spalling on the ends and had been cut off, I think, a couple of times. So when the casino opened, we were looking at that building. It had not been really addressed in any of the construction, any of the repairs, and we were like, this looks really bad next to the other building. Let's make it look at least presentable. So we had almost 2 feet cut off the end with a concrete saw. They pulled the roofing back, repaired it, took the stone off the building that was all falling off and painted it. He's confirming that what he's seen is the structural integrity of those beams are okay. The cancerous ends had to be removed. and he believes that underneath the roof layment and everything else, that structurally that envelope is sound. It's good for another 20 years at least. So that's that one issue. The comments, I'm assuming you want me to continue as
Please
far
do,
as.
yes, thank you.
Mr. Waters stated during discussions, I'm trying to remember what meeting that was, that the pool bathhouse had been part of the condemnation notice for the old casino building. And it's best my recollection and understanding that that was included by the engineering firms and the design firms in that calculation so that they could come up with a formula to keep the casino building where it is and call it a restoration. And it would necessitate the permitting process because you are on one side of the coast, or things like the pilings. If you built this building new, you would most likely be required to have done a lot of extra work and things, and it may not have even been permitted, possibly. I don't think that, but in order to come up with the calculation so that they could come up with the proper percentages to meet the intent of the state law and the building official to make a determination that it was a restoration, I believe they had to include the square footage and size of the pool building. I don't know that that statement, it was condemned, meant he's wrong. I think it was more a calculation of convenience possibly to say, this is a way we can get this building restored without having to build new. And that's, I wasn't here, so that's my best understanding, and someone correct me if I'm totally wrong. I think that's the context of Mr. Waters' statement. Was there any other piece that I could clarify here?
No, I just wanted to answer the question that was directed toward the experts was geothermal system and saltwater pool. I guess the geothermal, I'm not familiar with that.
Well, we didn't ask the engineer to do anything other than to look at the current configuration, as he said, compared to its original design intent. I think the hope is coming out of this meeting that staff might get some sense of the commission, if y'all want to move forward in some manner, that those kinds of design decisions and operational costs and technologies that are available, and depending upon, again, you're going to have to weigh everything against how you're going to pay for it, would be thrown into that hopper and considered by the design professionals, the engineers, design discussions with you. So it's something I don't know that it's appropriate really to address, but I think that if you did move forward with a new facility or those kinds of things would be considered.
Okay. Speaking of that specifically, I'd like to just advise the commission. Let's try to, there's two things to think about at this point. One is we're right in the middle of budget cycle, and we just had a meeting, so we know the numbers of our beach operation, we know how much it costs to operate the pool, and how the expenses don't cover, we know all those numbers. That's one conversation, the budget for itself. The other conversation is the pool itself. Today's workshop is on a presentation on the status of the pool and what is really wrong with it. From my personal opinion, I've stated here for years how I love the pool, and I used to use it all the time before I became a public figure. Have to go down there, my baby sit on without but anyway, I absolutely adore the pool. I know why a lot of people moved here for it, and they adore it too. The usage, and I'm gonna be devil's advocate here. I have no opinion, well, you know what my opinion is, it was in the paper too, but I'm gonna try to play devil's advocate here. We know what the financial picture is, and it's not rosy. We know now what the pool situation is, and according to this report, it's not as bad as I anticipated that it would be, to be very honest with you. We know that to many people who are currently utilizing the pool isn't open enough hours. Right now, it's not open in convenient times for people who work, it's not open on those things, and it's already losing a lot of money. On the other side, what do you want it to be? I've heard from a lot of people saying, don't change it, leave it just the way it is. Could you leave some of the lanes for swimming, and could you make it a zero entrance pool for the kids so the parents could be with their kids, and maybe fill it up in the middle where it was a diving section so that the exercise people could have a nice level ground to do rehab? And I mean, I've heard all kinds of things. I've been requested everything. Then people said, no, put a splash pad in there somewhere, or put this there and add that, and that's what the kids want, and so I've heard just about everything. The good news for me is that a fix of the current pool configuration is not as bad, a Band-Aid, but remember that it is a Band-Aid, than it is. We also have to be, I think, mature about this in that there are many things that, again, I don't think anybody up here except maybe the vice mayor, who was very vocal about his not liking it, were happy about some of the things that happened when the casino building was created as a business model. So are there things lacking right now that we need? We know that our staff has told us that they need, first of all of our banquet planning people don't have any place to, they have no offices. The lifeguards squish themselves into one little tiny place, they have no place, no thing to do anything. We've got no supply closet. When we rent out that space on the top floor, when that whole situation is fixed, all those people that have been using that empty space for office space through this whole configuration are gonna have to go bye-bye. So where do they go? I mean, we have some very real needs. I know we have garbage needs in the back. We have trucks that come to deliver to restaurants that block rights of people on the beach every day when they're bringing stuff there because they never created a formal drop-off between. And we have parking issues. So it's kind of like one of those things. Do we say, hey, I'm just gonna, I'm putting it all out there. Do we say, okay, well, we know we don't have money, but we could do this, and we could figure out ways to market it better, and let's make the fixes now, and see what we have now and just get it going and try to rebuild it as is and get it fixed? Or do we say, hey, let's take the money, invest, and create a destination that's going to bring in money? I mean, I've had restaurateurs say, well, can't I put a tiki hut out there somewhere, and why can't we rent chairs out there and lounge chairs and umbrellas and all kinds of things so we can enjoy the pool all around and make money, and that'll support the operation of the pool. You know, I've had a lot of great ideas. Why not do a kind of a combination of all of them? And I just thought, the reason I'm having this and I'm being so long-winded today is that I want us all to have a conversation about what we can do to look at the whole picture. Oh, I love that music. Let's look at the whole picture holistically, because the one thing that we've really worked hard at the last few years is not having to go back and fix mistakes of the past. We've spent a lot of years fixing mistakes. Whatever we do, we want to do it once and do it right. Like we're going to fix our streets, we're going to do it once and get it right and be done with it. You know, it takes sacrifice, but if we can all kind of work together, I think, and come up with some good solutions and see, maybe we can find a happy medium, or maybe we say, hey, let's jump for it and do it, but let's all try to do it. You know, bring your best ideas to the table here and we'll listen, because I'm totally open, but I just think it's a beautiful amenity that I don't want to see go bye-bye. And, but I also know that, remember, that kind of feature doesn't need to make money. When I say bring in money, I don't mean being profitable, I mean sustain the operations. And that's what we as public servants are supposed to do with your tax dollars, is to make sure that we have something in place so that we can sustain it, not make money. Okay, so, Commissioner Barney, sorry for that one. I don't want to.
It's okay. I just want to amplify Peggy's comments, because if I were a citizen and I, was present at the last meeting that we had about this, at which Bob presented, and if I was present at the budget workshop meeting in which William mentioned about the context that the city manager just offered, that the building was condemned when he came in, and if I was here today, I would have some serious questions about which information do I trust and which information do I find reasonable. And I just wanted to, I guess, to me it seems like the questions that were being answered by Mr. Stewart are different questions than the ones that Bob answered. I think Bob seemed to answer a broader set of questions. What could we do here in this space, and about how much would that cost us, and presented us with a range of possibilities that weren't really the focus of this study. And Mr. Stewart said as such. And on that, about how big, what should be the scope of our attention on this issue. You know, Pam, you kind of drove it home. There's fixing the pool, there's fixing what's there, and then there's fixing the business model, which might require some other things. So this, to me, appears to be the most basic thing that we can do to get the pool open. And I can tell you right now, I'm not averse to doing what's here in this report just to get the pool open again. But that doesn't mean that, we shouldn't have a larger conversation about what to do with the pool and make sure that we're getting, to the point where it's more sustainable than it is currently. So that's, those are my thoughts.
Commissioner Musso?
Okay, so let's talk about the money you had mentioned briefly about, we just started budget conversation. Most of the people in this room did not hear us have the budget conversation. They may or may not have heard that, with the pool open, we guesstimate that we'll lose about $600,000 a year. With the pool closed, we guesstimate that we're gonna lose about $300,000 a year. So I'm not opposed to doing this, or like Ms. Mann had mentioned, doing this, but maybe adding on to it to help the business model. And again, the mayor had mentioned we're not out to make money, but any project, and I've said it from day one, the project has been thawed, and it should at least break even. Because if it doesn't break even, you as a taxpayer are paying for it, you're subsidizing it. And some people use the pool, some people don't. But if we're looking at this piece, and it came back better than we thought it would have been, but we still need to look at doing some overhaul on the entire building, and bringing it up to today's date. Maybe putting a little bit more retail in there to offset the $300,000 loss that the pool will have, because at the end of the day, it doesn't need to make money, doesn't mean it couldn't make money, but with the proper marketing and, again, the front of the building, you see nothing. It's a brick wall. You should be looking at the beautiful beach that we have. If you're at the pool, you should be able to look out at the beach. Or there should be some upstairs retail, or farther down on the side, there should be additional retail. There's still so much missing from the beach complex. It's a beautiful destination, but it needs to be, modernized. It needs more. If we're going to do anything additional, why not, spend a little bit more money and do it, right? But then going back to the money, is this something that we can spend penny sales tax on, or have a conversation about spending penny sales tax? Because I thought hard to get the penny sales tax for additional infrastructure, and to me, this would fall into infrastructure. I think my direction to city manager.
Yes, sir, Commissioner, it's my understanding that we believe that this could, we'd have to get a final, based on your direction, determination on that specifically, but it's our sense that it probably does.
Because we're gonna struggle under this budget to, balance the budget. But if we're able to use a penny sales tax, I think that's a conversation we need to have, because it's a fix that we already have there. We've already gotten our first installment of the penny sales tax. It's up to a 10-year program. So I think that's one quick way of identifying funds to move forward with whatever we decide from the dais.
Vice Mayor?
Did Commissioner Robinson want to speak first?
You didn't see his.
I didn't.
Your hair was up before.
Wasn't, I was scratching.
But he just is in an auction, and he just bought $1,000
Thank you. What did I just buy?
$1,000 lamp.
Great. My wife will be so pleased. I don't even know where to begin with this conversation. First of all, I pretty much agree with all that's been said from the dais this evening. I certainly agree with the mayor and Commissioner Hardy and Mr. Amoroso just a little bit. Just kidding. Look, you used the word trust, Commissioner Hardy. That's where I'm at. The mayor referenced earlier that I'd been here through this whole process of reconstruction, the rebuild, if you will, of the casino building, and the financing that went into it, and the manipulation of numbers and facts and figures to create that casino building, which ultimately was a failed business model, as I said it was before it was even the first scoop of dirt was ever turned. This pool has been used as a political pawn. It's been prostituted in some ways. To say that this building was condemned to, do some of the things that happened and, I'm flabbergasted that we're at this conversation because it does come down to trust. Because there are so many conflicting perspectives of what it's gonna cost to bring this bad boy back to life. I would like to see a pool up there, but again, we all know, I'm very much concerned about the huge financial losses. I think the only way we're gonna be able to wrap our arms around the issue of trust going forward is to do exactly what we've heard here this evening and take a holistic look at what we're gonna do up there. I think we don't have the luxury of addressing the pool as a standalone issue. Many of you tonight have said, well, it's a lack of marketing. Some of you have suggested that it's a lack of the view, whatever the case may be. Well, if we fix all of these things, let's just say you're correct, that you're absolutely correct, and I'm not saying you're not correct, then what we're gonna have here is, by your own words, an influx, an increase in the number of people that are gonna use the pool. If we increase the hours, by the comments I'm hearing, we're gonna increase the usage. If we do the marketing, we're gonna increase the usage. But what happens then is we have an unintended consequence. That is, we have a parking problem already on the beach. So by bringing more people to this pool, it only exacerbates on some levels the parking, okay? Then you have the issue of, okay, we fix this for, let's just say the engineering study is correct, and we'll call it 600,000, keep it nice and easy, an even number. So we put $600,000 in it, we're still faced with hundreds of thousands of dollars of loss each year, which is not sustainable. So I just want to say that I think that what we really need to do, and I think we've kind of touched on this even before tonight, is we want to make sure that you have access to a swimming pool, but I think we need to take a look at that entire site and see what we need to do to make it whole. To provide a pool for you that is available to you, that is sustainable from a financial standpoint, as well as fix the flaws in the business model as far as the casino building is concerned. Some people have suggested that we just go ahead and, to fill our void financially is just to go ahead and increase the parking rates. That's not a good idea, because if you do that, then some people will stop coming to the beach. If they stop coming to the beach, then we potentially dig ourselves a deeper financial hole. So we've got to strike that balance, and that's, so I am in complete support of looking at a holistic approach to, coming up with something that is acceptable and embraced by the entire community. Thank you.
Commissioner Robinson?
I would love to see a family-friendly pool, not necessarily that size, that location. And I'm not interested in putting more than $500,000 and getting the same thing. Marketing, something that I'm embarrassed about.